This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for The Rant with Barbara Rose Brooker. And many of you may know that she is an author, and she's got a number of books out there. Please just go out to Amazon and put in her name, and you will see the list of books. Love Sometimes is the most recent book that she has out there, and it is a well worth read. On top of that, she is the founder of agemarch.org, and we are planning a virtual Age March within the year 2020 to 2021, and we'll discuss that today. And you have a lot of other wonderful attributes, Barbara, so let's get started and let's talk about what's going on in this world.
Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
Well, we're living in this alternate universe. I mean, don't you feel that way? I wake up in the morning and I think, okay, outside of going to the pharmacy or to get essentials, as they call them, in my walk, I don't leave the house. I am now in the world of Zooming.
Yep.
and telephone calls, FaceTime calls for those who don't have technology, a telephone call, and it's a whole different world. But what's interesting about it? Not only do I and others feel insulated, inside, but it has brought me, and I've heard from others too who write in, that we go deeper into ourselves, and it's with memories and dreams, and almost like watching a movie of my life. I've been playing back all kinds of scenes from the past with my children, with my deceased parents, and so forth. And discovering not only regrets and some painful memories, but finding new insights. And I think it's an opportunity and an important time for reflection. But also, Karen, I am a single woman. I am 83. I want to be a movie star. I don't believe in age, as you know. That's a whole other subject. But I would love, I have fantasies, of course, about romance and Prince Charming. Maybe he'll be wearing a mask and we'll do social distancing.
Right.
But nevertheless, Prince Charming, a romance. So I started exploring. I went on the computer, and there's a whole bunch of, there's not only single meetups that are available, but there's single dating sites, single Zoom dating sites now. I call it pandemic dating. And I've been keeping a record about it and writing stories about it, and I thought, I am going to experiment. So, should I put my age on the ad? I asked myself, because when I tried it before and I put 83, guess what? Did I get an answer? No. Silence, 0. It's because of ageism, of course, which is a whole nother discussion. So this time I did a different experience. I didn't put my age. What I said is, I am a 70-plus ageless woman seeking the company of an ageless man from mid-60s up.
Interesting.
And then I kind of, had fun with the ad. I said I'd like a genius, maybe someone who's affluent. I just threw all the whistles and bells in there, and thinking that I wouldn't get anybody. You wouldn't believe. I got dozens. I got so many dozens that one of the single sites who heavily advertises, I think it's called Our Time.
Okay.
You've seen it,
yes,
Our
I
Time.
have. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't pay. They advertise free, but nothing's free.
Right.
And I didn't pay. And because I got so many, they said, we will give you a free trial on this, but you have to see all the men who have responded. When I said genius,
Yeah.
It's so funny, Karen. I looked at these men, and you can tell they're all lying about their age. too.
Sure.
I mean, it looked like they had pictures from 30 years ago. You know, one is holding a fish he just caught, you know, in the middle of the bay. Another's on top of a mountain. They all said they were geniuses. They all said that they were, you know, ageless, and they all said they were fit. That was a big thing, and they all said they want a relationship, the big R.
Wow.
Now, here's the clinker. This is new from pandemic dating. Before pandemic, when we would do that, you would make a date with the ones you liked. You would answer. I would always set up a date either at a Starbucks where there's people. You know,
Sure.
I had a couple dinner dates. Now you press a button if you're interested for a Zoom video chat. Saves a lot of problems, doesn't
Right.
it?
It certainly does.
So I went on one, and actually I'm writing stories for Medium, and I'm calling it the abnormal. The not normal is the new normal. And so I meet this guy. His name is Phil, and I zoom in, and so help me God, he is sitting in the Oval Office.
Oh my gosh.
You know how the Oval Office looks on television
Right.
when we see.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the Oval Office, and he's sitting in the middle of it on the chair, wearing a red Trump hat.
Oh my gosh.
So right away I'm thinking, you know, I'm a staunch Democrat. It's not even a partisan issue with me. I don't like Trump. I think he's a maniac.
Right.
But that's beside the point. And he's sitting there wearing a red hat in the office, and I said, Phil, what are you doing in the Oval Office? Are you in Washington? He said, I'm in virtual Washington. And then he laughs. You know, Karen, that we can go virtually. I forget, is it Zoom or whatever? We can go virtually into anywhere,
right.
and we can create atmospheres for ourselves,
Exactly.
whether it's space or Paris or what. So right away I knew, oh God, this guy, you know. So he's in virtual Washington. He laughs, you know, and he's in the ad. He looked bigger, and he sounded kind of smart. And but here he is, this little thin, little tiny man, which is okay. He can't help it that he's tiny and thin. That's really not the issue. But he's standing there in virtual Washington, and he's asking me questions like I'm applying for a job. Really, the first thing he says to me, Lipitor?
Well,
you know, Lipitor is a
cholesterol drug. Yeah.
Right, a high blood pressure. And I replied, 10 milligrams a day. What is this, an audition? And then he says, well, I'm fit as a fiddle. Doc says I'll live to 200. And then he snorts, you know.
Oh, my God.
And then he says, Karen, I'm not kidding, no Viagra or penile expanders for me. And then he laughs again. He says, but you cougars, women your age, he said, you love bad boys. And I know, because I said, are you analyzing me? Because he's a therapist.
Okay.
I said, are you analyzing me? He said, I already did. He said, I've read your books. And he said, when social distancing is over, I want to take you to Calistoga for the mud baths. And, you know, we're going to have some real weekends. And then I pressed the button and I said, stay safe, and I zoomed off. You know,
Wow.
that's the beauty of Zoom.
Absolutely.
If I had been in a restaurant with him, I would have had to, you know, finish what I was eating, and it would have been a thing. But this way, you can say stay safe, and you can zoom off. I mean, I'll tell you something. It's almost like and I'm speaking generally, it's almost like the pandemic has brought out, you know how mice come out in the cold?
Right,
Is
right.
it the cold? Yeah,
Right.
brought out a lot of the creeps because, and I'm talking, these are professional men, but that has nothing to do with character,
Right.
you know. Yeah, and it's brought them out, and they're home Zooming, and they're sitting there Zooming all day. Women, you know, like they're shopping at Amazon for shampoos.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's hysterical. So I thought, well, you know, I creativity is another thing that comes out during the pandemic because we're all creative.
Right.
We can either be gardening or cooking or writing for the first time. I'm writing another book called The Corona Diaries and other things. But, you know, we can do so many things. So I went on another one. I clicked on another one who seemed terrific. He's a medical pharmacist, and he had all these interesting things to say about the virus and so forth. And his picture, I never really look at pictures because you really have to talk to the person, you know. But he looked like a nice man, around 70, and so forth. And so we decided we were going to do our own Zoom rather than the button one they had on the singles.
Okay.
So what I did is, you know, with Zooming, I mean, we have to look good because
Right.
the computer screen shows up a lot more than meeting somebody in a dimmed restaurant,
Right.
you know, sitting across from someone. So, okay, I put on the red lipstick, a little eyeshadow, I blew dry my hair, which has grown so long from the pandemic. I'm like Lady Godiva now. And I even put on my I call them Joan Crawford style platform high heels, you know, and I put a big red scarf around to cover the little bit of jowls under my chin, and so forth, and got myself dressed up, and I went on to meet Larry, was his name. So the minute I Zoomed, he sent the link. So I clicked the link, and boom, there's Larry, close up. And he is sitting on like a card table chair.
Okay.
And you know how on Zoom you can see backgrounds,
Right.
you can see a little bit of the house. But so help me God, listeners and Karen, all I saw, and this is kind of sad, from floor to ceiling were boxes. Boxes and boxes, and some there were a couple bicycles on top of the boxes, and he was like diminished and shrunk, sitting amongst these boxes. All I saw was this big head, you know, and hardly a neck, and these little thin arms, and he had this interesting voice, and then I just realized he's a hoarder.
Yep.
The poor thing was a major hoarder, and it was kind of sad. And of course, I wasn't going to say anything. And then he went into how he really likes, you know, women who are independent and who can take care of themselves. And he Googled me, and he ordered a couple of my books, but he looked through a couple of them free on Amazon, and he saw a lot of sex scenes, and he wanted to know if they were true, you know, that kind of thing, and so forth and so on. So, you know, as nicely as I could, I Zoomed off, you know, as soon as I could. So I've been keeping a journal of these because I'm still in pursuit of Prince Charming.
Sure.
But to meet Prince Charming, you have to you have to be in deep touch with yourself,
right,
and like yourself and know yourself and have some compassion as well. I mean, I can laugh about some of it. Oh, just I have to tell you about one other. I know I'm ranting. I'm really
that's
ranting.
okay. It's called The Rant.
But thank you for listening, everyone. Okay, here's the other one. The widower I can't get over. I call him the widower. And he was smooth and silky. And even on the single sites, he was interesting. He is a contractor who is out of business because he, works with architects on all these apartment buildings and stuff. And he looked like a real fit kind of interesting guy. There was a picture of him in his, I guess I would say he's in his late 70s, good-looking, kind of Clint Eastwood type, you know what I mean?
All right.
But it's not really the looks as we know. But anyway, and he had kind of a fun, cute response. So his name was Evan. So we decided to have a Zoom date, too. So there was Evan sitting in front of bookcases on his lazy boy reclining chair, kind of casual,
Okay.
And he kept shaking the glass. We did an evening one. He was having his martini, he said, with his olives, and so forth and so on, and we did the chat and so forth. And then he, too, said that, these guys Google you. Like we're not supposed to Google them. They Google you. So he said, well, I went on Google and I looked at some of your work and I clicked in on a couple of podcasts, and he said, he did that usual thing. I've never dated a woman your age.
Oh, my God.
Because I always say my age, as you know. That's
right.
what my work is about, age, no matter what age you are. I never dated a woman your age. And I said, well, how old was your wife? And he said, oh, she was close to my age, younger than me, and he said, but she looked older. She let her hair go gray, and he starts complaining about the poor wife. I mean, he's a widower. He advertises as a widower, and I said, well, when did your wife die? And he said, about a week ago.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. This guy is 24 hours a day. He is zooming. He's looking for, the quote, the babe. And how on your show, there's been many wonderful, you've had some marvelous guests and experts talking about sexism. I always talk about ageism, but they both go together, actually,
right.
Because so many men who are over 60, I would say, are so into appearance because they haven't gone into themselves, and frankly, society hasn't expected them to. So I'm generalizing, of course. There's some fabulous men out there, like your husband, and I know fabulous men, but there are so many in our culture who haven't gone into themselves, and it's just like I always say, I'm Tarzan, you Jane, and they want the image, and the image of age in our anti-age culture, of course, is Barbie, or the grown-up Barbie, or the Housewives of Beverly Hills,
right.
That TV show, and everything slick, silky, and smooth, and no age. They think, but and so many men are that way and have bought into it, and they call it eye candy or trophy wives or whatever, but it's it's based on appearance. Let's face it. what they think appearance should be. And this man was one of those. And frankly, when he said that about the week, I also said, I have another Zoom meeting, but stay safe. So I've been doing this list. I have a bunch more lined up, and going through, because my new book, of course, The Corona Diaries, will be based on some of these experiences during the pandemic, because a lot of them are using, quote, social distancing as an excuse, as not as so much as an excuse, but oh boy, this is a time for me to really get out there and look at the merchandise.
Exactly.
That's how they,
Yep.
When it comes to dating, they don't have to spend any money. They can go on Zoom, and they can look at, quote, at the merchandise and evaluate. And it's absolutely absurd. Now, and I don't want the listeners to think I'm judging all men this way, because I know that's not true. But when it comes to not pursuing, that's not the word, but trying to get connections, maybe romantic connections, like I say, pandemic dating, right. It is a bit of that. You have to find your way in it. It's not like my friend Virginia, who was standing in line at Walgreens picking up her blood pressure medication and started talking to a gentleman, and they ended up getting married. You know what I mean?
Oh, how interesting. Yes.
I love stories like
right.
that. I love stories like that because I believe in it, But for people who are at home now and want to make connections, pandemic dating is very available. It's everywhere.
And you know what I'm hearing from you, and I hope I'm never in this position in my lifetime. But
I hope not.
But, as I hear it, when you go out and are really amongst people, okay?
Yes.
And let's say you met the first guy, the guy that was sitting in the Oval Office with the Trump hat on. If he wasn't wearing his Trump hat, okay, and you met him, at a Starbucks and you just started talking, he may be totally different than this image he put up on Zoom. But I get the feeling from a lot of people when they go on Zoom, and as our listeners know, many of our podcasts are on Zoom. And do we try to enhance the way we look? Yes, we do. I mean, right now my hair is soaking wet. I just got out of the shower. So, I would not go on Zoom this way, okay? I can do an audio. I would fix my hair. I'd make sure that I had my makeup on. I want to look good in my eyes when other people see me. And I think when we're in public, we act differently sometimes than we do on Zoom or any of these.
It's a really good point.
We're almost play acting to some degree.
Yes, I was going to say there's performance involved.
Yes.
There's performance involved. It doesn't feel real. It does feel virtual. And I agree with you. Listen, Karen, since the pandemic, let's see, I haven't worn a bra. I wear the big black sweatshirt. I don't put a stitch of makeup on, and I feel great about myself. Yeah. I really do, and I will go on Zoom this way sometimes. But I guess when it comes to what you say, there's a certain amount of feeling of performance and auditioning with the pandemic dating that I'm a little uncomfortable with. I'm throwing a coin in the fountain because I'm thinking, well, how else am I going to meet anyone? And it's kind of fun. And I'm not saying that I'm not I'm perfectly fine with my life not meeting anyone. But I have romantic fantasies, and I thought, oh, this could be fun.
Sure.
I'll try the single meetups and the book clubs, single book clubs, and, I'll go on a few single sites, and some of my friends have done. And this is, it's gambling. It's gambling because no matter how anyone advertises, you still don't know what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
And like you say, there is a certain amount of performance. And like the man who's the hoarder, I don't know, is he not aware that we could see that? We could see that, but of course that's an illness, so I don't want to trash it, because that isn't.
And typically they don't see it as anything other than normal, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
I have a friend who will come to my house, and I will tell everybody, and I'm open about it. Every room in my house is neat all the time.
Uh-huh. Except for one, right?
the studio, because
right.
I share part of it with my husband. We have probably our whole, business life in here. And so it's, there are stacks of things, but we neaten it up. But if anybody were to walk in here, okay, they would wonder how this room fits into the rest of my house, because I like things in order. When I get up in the morning, my dishes have to come right out of that dishwasher and be put away.
Yes.
So, that's normal to me. But I'll have people who will come in here and go, does anybody live here? And it's like, well, my house isn't that fragile. But there are people who don't keep a house like me. In fact, they look at my office and they go, there's nothing wrong with it. And I look around and I go, I shudder every time I come in here. So he probably doesn't recognize it. The first guy that you talked about, with the virtual background, is that what he really believes in? Or was he play acting to get a rise out of you, to see what you would say?
Yeah, you never know. You never know, and particularly during this pandemic where when we're by ourselves, even if we're living with other people, we are insulated.
Yes.
We are. Everyone I know, no matter what profession, we're working from home. I mean, I teach at San Francisco State University, and they hired me for the August through November session. Well, of course, all classes were canceled. So I have to learn how to do this now once a week from home. And all these people are at home. So it's got to, in some ways, this sounds strange, and in some ways it's a good thing because we're back to the basics.
Right.
And this is not to diminish and I have prayers for the people who are ill from the COVID, the people who have died from it and are dying. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. But we're back to basics at home, not only with our relationships, if we're living with people, but with ourselves, like I said. It's beyond our routines.
Yes.
We have a dialogue now with our inner selves, not only through dreams, but through memories and insights. Don't you find that?
Every day it's very strange. I wake up in the morning and, for a very long time, I'd wake up, make my husband breakfast, he'd go off to work. I would come into the studio, do my work, and exercise and do all these other things. But all day long, I was on my own, okay? He was off at work. My son was off at work.
Yeah.
And now when I wake up in the morning, I have to get myself, straight. Okay, my husband's still asleep. My son is still asleep. Wow, I have this window of opportunity to think privately. But it's only that small window now. And so my life has changed. And I feel for my husband and my son because my husband, did a lot of IT project work. And he doesn't get called for that very often. And when he does, he's a totally different
Yeah.
person. He dances out of the house because he
Oh.
gets to work,
Yeah, he gets to work.
Right. But at home, he watches me work, okay?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
can see, there are days that I look at him and think, if he were one of those guys that you were talking to on the dating site, I can see
Mhm.
him putting all that energy into creating this atmosphere just because it would be fun to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know?
Well, there's so much available now with virtual, the virtual backgrounds,
Right.
if and everything. Technologically, there's so much available. But what really gets me, Karen? I don't know how it is where you live, but when I go for my walk today after our call, I still see young. I would say when I say young, between 30 and 45, men and women jogging and walking and their dogs and on their phones without masks. And I really feel angry about that because I listened to a report this morning from some very famous scientists in Europe and around. I mean, these are Nobel-winning prize scientists who specialize in it, and they said although the mask is not a cure, for 40% it will bring the virus down.
Right.
And can control. And these people are spreading the virus. And that's why, I'm in California. California was listed this morning a higher rate of spread than Florida.
Right.
That's how bad it is in California. And everyone's running around in their tank tops and, in their baseball caps like it's nothing, and they're getting sick. And now the doctors at the hospitals are worried in California that they will not be able to accommodate any more people who are sick because they're running so short. Why is there not a national mandate for a lockdown, a stay-at-home lockdown? Even for a month, they said this could maybe diminish a huge percentage of deaths and sickness.
And the real reason that there is not one, because we have a controlling, and I'm sorry for those who are out there who believe in their Republican ideals. Right now, the Republicans don't believe that they should command anybody not, to wear a mask.
I know they're using it as an excuse.
This is going to go away. It will go away if we do the right things. And I know that when my husband and I go for our walk every morning, we both wear a mask. If there's nobody around and we're all by ourselves, I may take it down, especially when it's been so hot and humid. But when there are people around, we're passing somebody. No, we're going to pass somebody who's walking a dog. I'll put it on.
Oh, absolutely, and they should too. The thing is, many Republicans, many Republicans do not believe in the Republican policy about masks.
You are right.
And they dislike Trump because it's not even a question of partisan at this point. I mean, he's cutting funds. Yeah. He is going to cut the funds if we keep our children home from school. That's what Hitler did.
Yes.
Who ever heard of such a thing? Marching these poor children into the fires. Not only the children, but the janitors, the
teachers,
cafeteria
right,
cooks,
all of them.
The teachers, all of them. And, Dr. Redfield, he's marvelous. He said he fears and he knows that in a short time they will all become sick and there'll be many more deaths and they'll have to shut down again.
Right.
I don't understand the mentality. So for me, even though I'm a staunch, very to the left Democrat, it has nothing to do this issue with partisan politics,
Right.
because the virus doesn't know and
who's
doesn't
who.
care.
You got
right. And I don't understand America. I think in generations to come, our children, grandchildren, whatever, will look in history, and I think we're going to go down as real dummies, honestly, because there's no reason for this horrible, horrible plague that they can't control.
Right.
They can't control. And they're close to a vaccine, I think, but even that, they said, there's still so much to do on it. That could be at least another year,
right.
At least another year. So we're all inside and creating new environments and new professions and new learning curves. And so all of that is a good thing.
Absolutely.
I think.
And
that's,
you can look at it this way through your pandemic dating. You're making a few new friends here and there.
Absolutely.
And you're going to make us laugh when we read your next book.
Well, thank you. I hope so. I'm going to be doing some more Zoom dating today, Karen.
Okay.
And keeping track. And I will look forward to our next rant and our discussion of our age march and our virtual age march, I should clarify, because no one's going to be outside marching. And I hope that this will be, as I've always wanted and believed, a movement. We have a Black Lives Matter movement, which I think is so important. Age Lives Matter movement could, be part of this. And I had said age doesn't matter, but I didn't mean it that way. Of course age matters. Age is a gift and is for all ages. But we could have an Age Lives Matter. This is like a movement, and it's not, Age March is not a podcast or talk show topic, even though I've been on national talk shows in 2020, and you can see them on my website, but talking about this, but that's not really what it's about, because you know how I feel, Karen. I feel that there's so much talk about it and deciphering, and everyone's saying they're an expert, and like I say, we're all experts because we're all aging, and we all age differently. So to band and bond together for a global national age march, I hope all the listeners out there will please join agemarch.org so they can be on our virtual age march.
That sounds terrific. I love it.
Yes. And Karen, I need your endorsement on it too, Karen.
Oh, you definitely have my endorsement. You know that.
I know.
We will come back again next week.
Yes.
We are here every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and it is 1 p.m. Eastern time. And everyone can find this both on audio, and they can also find it on YouTube. So we'll do it again next week.
I can't wait. And stay safe and
You
stay
too.
creative.
All right. Have a great day, honey.
You too. Bye-bye.